Hello, everybody. This is Secular Sekai with Tridents Against Tyrants, and we've got quite a bit of news to cover. There's always a lot of news right now. Everyone, I've said it before and I'll say it again, technically, the Cold War never ended in various different ways, but let's say it's a renewed uh, enthusiasm. It's more than just a Cold War. There is a lot going on, a lot of changes within the US government, a lot of things happening on the ground in Ukraine. Um, there's a lot of geopolitical intrigue happening across the whole world, and there are many good people who are suffering because of this. Let's jump into it. First and foremost, I had to run here from another call. So, as usual, please share the stream on Discord, on Facebook, on Blue Sky, on, I don't know, Instagram. Wherever you usually share things for other people to know that streams are going on, please be sure to let people know we are live so that we can get the word out to as many people about what's going on in the world. I see Anna. I see Serhimar. I see Mr. Spock. I see it wasn't me. M35 Benvids. Who else? Mitch Ashdown. If I missed anyone else, my apologies. Mr. Spock says howdy. And yeah, you know what? We've got some news related to Ukraine out of Texas. So I'll be pulling that up in one moment. Alright. Yeah, you know what? Before we jump into the news, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stuff happening. Ways that you can help Ukraine. Because there are a lot of ways that you can help Ukraine. So, let's pull that up. Oh, shoot. Hold on a sec, I have to recall the web page I'm about to pull up for you. Here we go. Oh, however, whoever runs their website appears that they did not put this event that I'm wanting to share with you all onto it, which is a little annoying. But alright, well, I'll just share the oh, wait. Yeah, I'll just share the website and then I'll give you the lowdown on the event that is happening tomorrow in the state of Texas. Alright. So here we go, and okay, there we go. Alright, and I'm going to put this into the chat as well. This is the Ukrainian American Society of Texas. This is an organization that has existed for many years. Specifically, it's in the quote-unquote North Texas area. There's historic reasons why Dallas. For anyone who knows what geography in Texas is like, there's a reason why the area is called North Texas, even though it's not really the northernmost part of Texas. Texas geography is weird. West Texas is actually the furthest to the north. North Texas is kind of just the northest of center. Texas has an interesting shape. Anyway, off topic. So the Ukrainian American Society of Texas has a lot of events, automobile rallies, protests, They support local Ukrainian businesses in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is very important because, for anyone unaware, the DFW Metroplex historically has been one of the largest growing metropolitan areas in the U.S. for several years now. It's a big, big market. But anyway, my point being, they do a lot of stuff to support Ukraine in ways big and small. They proclaim Russia as a terrorist state, which is absolutely correct, very accurate. And they have a call to action specifically for Texans to reach out to their representatives, John Cornyn and Ted Cruz. So if you happen to be a Texan, then yeah, make sure that you call and let them know that you stand with Ukraine and that what the U.S. government is doing under the current Trump regime is not reflective of Texas values. In any case, all right, so let me put this into the chat. Mr. Spock asks, you seem to be always calm and rational. Do you ever get to EEG mode anger? And if so, can we hear a demonstration? I mean, I've gotten a little heated. I've gotten irritated. I've gotten to where I've been a little pissed off on streams. But I guess you're right. I guess it's not that often. I usually keep myself calm and collected. It's a little harder these days. It's a little harder when there's everything happening in Ukraine, everything happening in America, everything happening in Mexico. But Mexico is interesting because that one is equally capable of causing one to feel rage, but it's been a problem, a horrible problem that's been happening for decades. So it's so the levels of violence and everything happening there, yeah, eventually, sadly, people become numb to it. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to be angry about. I could give you, I'm sure before the stream is over, I'll probably give you a demonstration of that, Mr. Spock. But anyway, so let me put this into the chat before I forget. So that's the website for the Ukrainian American Society of Texas. And the details for this, which I don't know why they don't have it on their website. Maybe they have it just on their social media or something. However, am I going to have to... Hold on. Yeah, it's just an image. Damn it. Okay, hold on. I have a quick and simple solution for this. Maybe. Okay. Yeah, this'll work. Okay, so first, let me get this image and save it. Then I'll go to the Tridents Against Tyrants email. Then I'll send it to myself. For anyone who's unaware, which definitely you shouldn't be because it's a very standard part of using email. If you ever need something from one device to another and your email is connected, you can always send an email to yourself to get that information, like an image, for example, or Dropbox, or Google Drive. And come on. Okay, there we go. So anyway, that's the website, and now let me pull up the image so I can show it to you. There we go. Okay. Come on. All right, so tomorrow, March 9th, 2025, there will be a protest in Dallas, Texas, for anyone who's able to make it, from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in Clyde Warren Park, Dallas, Texas. So there have been ongoing protests all over in Washington D.C. And at state capitals. There have been protests, both domestic, related to anger over the Trump regime, their domestic policies, the way they've been treating other traditional allied nations, and of course, plenty of protests related to, the war in Ukraine and America's botching of support for Ukraine, and now, under Donald Trump, seeming abandoning of Ukraine in terms of military equipment, logistics, and even intelligence sharing. So, anyway, this is important. Let me get those let me get the donation bars off of the screen real fast. 1 and 2. There we go. Sunday, March 9th, 1 to 3 p.m., Clyde Warren Park, Dallas, Texas. And I'll leave it up for 1 sec. But yeah, if you're able to, try to make it. If not, share with anyone you know who's in Texas or, I don't know, even Oklahoma or Louisiana. Anyone who could feasibly make a 5 or 6 hour drive, however long it might be, or who's willing to fly out. I want to get as many people there as possible. I will probably be there. So if you want to meet me, then you probably get a chance to if you're there at this protest. And yeah, all right. Let me open the Q&A real fast before we move on to the news. Oh, and there's a March 14th protest in Washington, D.C. Perfect. So actually, there was supposed to be a protest. I think there's also a protest today in Washington, D.C. So if you know anyone who's in the D.C. area, Anna, let them know that. Oh yeah, you know what? I should share information. I don't have an image for this one, but for everyone who, if they're way off on the East Coast instead of down near Texas, in Washington, D.C., come on, I've got all my information across so many sources in different places. Let me pull this up. Oh, jeez. 1 sec. Here it is. Okay. Oh, this must be coordinated then. And they're looking for 150 plus volunteers for the... Oh! And there's even a URL for this. Okay, hold on. Oh, but it's to a Google Doc. I don't know if he... Oh, but I should be able to share this without too much problem. Okay, well, tell you what. Here, now you've got the information for Dallas, and that's going to be tomorrow. And I apologize, this one in DC is not tomorrow, it is today. And so in an hour and a half, in an hour and a half, if you can make it to Washington, D.C., I'm about to have another opportunity to get involved for those of you over on the East Coast of the United States. Let me get this sent to myself also, so I can show it to you, everybody. And come on, come on. Don't be slow. There you are. Perfect. All right, so for those of you who can't make it to Dallas, Texas for a protest, today, if you are in Washington, D.C., or you can make it to Washington, D.C. within the next hour and a half, don't abandon Ukraine rally. The decision to cut PDA funding comes at a critical time when President Trump is pushing Russia and Ukraine to negotiate an end to Russia's war. Let me make that a little bigger. By signaling that the U.S. may walk away from Ukraine's fight for freedom, the White House emboldens Vladimir Putin and other U.S. adversaries. U.S. military assistance has been vital in helping Ukraine protect its people, infrastructure, and freedom. The interruption of this support not only puts Ukrainian lives at risk, but also weakens global security. This Saturday, we are organizing a rally at the Ellipse. I've never seen ellipses, only mentioned as ellipse. But yes, at the Ellipse, President's Park South, to demonstrate American support for a U.S.-Ukraine bilateral relationship and to unfurl the world's largest Ukraine flag. Sign up using this form. So, if you're able to make it, which I unfortunately cannot because I don't think, even with the fastest jet available, I would make it to Washington, D.C. in an hour and a half. Yeah, this will be going from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Washington, D.C. time. All right, and I'm going to put the link to this doc for anyone who can make it into the chat. If you can't make it, then just share a screenshot or share the information about that Dallas rally or tomorrow or this Washington, D.C. rally today to anyone who is gung-ho. Yeah, I'm for Ukraine. Yeah, drop of a dime. You know, ride or die. I will go to Washington, D.C. now. And let me put that into the chat. I know it's quite literally at the very last minute, but I felt I should share this. Okay. All right, and with that, let's go ahead and move on to the news. Thanks for being patient while I go through some of these calls to action. Oh, and as a reminder, if you're not already in our Discord, feel free to jump in there because we do have... Perfect. And we've got more information about additional protests. There will be one, as Anna mentioned in chat, on March 14th, again in Washington, D.C. And there will be the 50-51 protests. Those are happening in all 50 U.S. states. So yeah, you know what? As the other reminder I was going to give was just if you're in our Discord server, please be sure to check out the section, the channel for U.S. Congress campaign. There is a link there that will take you to the American Coalition for Ukraine. In fact, here we go. You can find it in our Discord, but here, I'll put it in chat as well. If you can't make it in person to a protest or rally, you can still call. You can answer the call to action to find your representatives. And, here is a map of the United States, broken up to give you an idea of which particular districts, which particular congressional districts are Republican represented and which ones are Democrat represented. If you click on any of these options on this map, it'll tell you the name of your representative. It'll give you a link to their website, their phone number, where to give them an email, send them an email. It'll give you some talking points on what you can say. You don't have to use the talking points. You can say whatever you want to, of course, in support of Ukraine, but it'll give you a couple of recommendations, some good talking points. I highly recommend the ACU website. They updated it recently. This map hasn't always been on here, but now it is. And I highly recommend it right now in order to quickly and efficiently find who it is that you're looking for. There's also another website we'd been using for a while, which I don't know if it's been updated, but we're going to keep it simple. If you know where you live on a map, then you're going to be able to find your representative here and have talking points to reach out to them. All right. And finally, last thing I'm going to show before we go on to the news, just related to protest in general across the United States, because, again, the government in the United States right now is ruled by a wannabe dictator. I cannot stress this enough. It is a kakistocracy. It is a government formed by the most unfit people within the United States. Donald Trump is just one example. And as they do damage to the U.S. economy and international diplomacy for the United States, we all Americans need to stand together against the attempts to create a one-party, de facto one-party, illiberal, autocratic, oligarchical dictatorship. Because that is the way that the United States is heading if the people don't stand up. So, if you are ready to stand up, not just for Ukraine, but for America, if you're American listening to this, for your country, then please go to here it is, 5050.1. And this is a website a website for the 5051 protest movement. 50 protests, 50 states, one movement. Join in the fight to uphold the Constitution and end executive overreach. This phrase right here sums it up, everybody. Everything that you're seeing right now that has to do with, cutting off trade with allies, putting tariffs on everyone, that has to do with abandoning Ukraine and trying to pressure it into a deal that would only harm Ukraine and benefit Russia, as Russia continues to prepare for more war with additional countries beyond just Ukraine. As we see the American educational system be dismantled, as we see different checks and balances among the three branches be dismantled, as we see the fucking joke that is the American healthcare system even further be eroded to the point that it is a perversion of the Hippocratic Oath for anyone who's a part of it, simply on the basis of financial greed, which is a horribly saddening thing to say, then please, if any of these and more of the matters that are affecting the United States matter to you in even the slightest, be sure to check out 5051. If you care about Ukraine, be sure to check out the American Coalition for Ukraine. And of course, as I mentioned, please, if you're in the DC area, check out the rally happening today if you can make it. And if you're in the Texas area of the United States, or close to Texas, close to Dallas specifically, because Texas is freaking huge, then please check out the Don't Abandon Ukraine protest by the Ukrainian American Society of Texas. All right. With all of that out of the way now, let me open the QA box and let's go ahead and actually jump into the news, shall we? Thank you for your patience, everybody. So, Mitch says, there you go, Spock. Sick guy dropped the F-bomb. He never does that. Do I rarely say that word on YouTube? I actually cannot gauge that for myself because in my day-to-day life I do curse quite a bit. Actually, so I feel like half the time I I get involved enough in whatever I'm talking about or reporting on that I probably do curse. And the other half of the time I'm probably thinking, YouTube. So I should try to make sure that they don't demonetize or shadow ban videos so it gets as much reach to as many people as possible. So I actually don't know. I don't know. How often do I say the word fuck on this channel? I don't know. But that's a question for another day. let's move onward. Oh, Michael says I sound a bit germy. So funny thing is, I actually am better now. If anyone remembers, I had a horrible cough for quite a while, and I still have a little bit of a cough, but it's not as bad as it used to be. Um, this winter has been horrible, guys. This winter has been like when the Spanish flu terrorized early 20th century, well, the whole world really, or kind of like the winter of COVID, or the winter of other major diseases. Like I've gotten sick twice this winter to the point of coughing up. Well, yeah, just to the point of really bad infection and coughing so much that I was coughing up blood. And I already got checked with the doctor, and it's nothing super serious. I'm not dying of tuberculosis. just really aggressive respiratory infections are going around. So, yeah. Final PSA: stay healthy, everybody, because it's been it's been rough this year. I've known a lot of people who have been seriously sick. All right, now then. Okay, let's stop sharing the screen for 1 sec. Let's put the well, I guess if we're going into the news, we'll come back to our donation progress bars. Let's do the news first, and then I'll put the progress bars back up, because I don't really want them to be in the way while we're reading stuff. Okay. All right. Now then. Actually, we're gonna start. We're gonna start with this news, which I don't know if the. Oh, here we go. Swedes launch boycott of U.S. goods in response to recent policy shifts. Also, do I have a way to? Hold on. Nope. Nope. Alright. Well, we'll leave that for right now. Alright. And for some reason, the plugin doesn't load this very well in reader mode. But we still get the information. U.S. President Donald Trump's suspension of military support to Ukraine has sparked concern among the Ukrainian community in Italy, leading to protests urging the Italian premier to stand with Ukraine and support fair peace negotiations. U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to suspend military support to Ukraine is making waves across Europe. The move following his tense exchange with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has sparked reactions from the Ukrainian community in Italy, with protests already taking place across the country. Oh, I almost forgot the Q&A box. Let me put that in. There we go. And also, let me put the link to the article into the chat so people can read it at their own pace. All right, the move following his tense exchange with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has sparked reactions from the Ukrainian community in Italy, with protests already taking place across the country. On Friday, hold on a sec. One moment. Now, did this open the wrong article? I mean, it says Swedes, but then it's talking almost exclusively about Italy. Well, we'll keep reading along. One moment. All right. Already taking place across the country. On Friday, Ukrainians renewed their appeal as they rallied in the Italian capital, demanding the U.S. restored support. Oles Horodetsky, the president of the Christian Ukrainian Association in Italy, told Euronews that they feel abandoned by what they call a friendly nation. They have urged Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to stand with Ukraine and call for peace negotiations under fair conditions. Now, I'll say this, and I've had this conversation with multiple people who are more politically conservative than I am. I am glad that the current Prime Minister of Italy seemingly is standing with Ukraine. That is good. So that's what's most important to me. When it comes to other matters, I'm not the most trusting of Giorgia Meloni. But so far, when it comes to the topic of Ukraine, I've been pleasantly surprised. So I strongly disagree with Meloni on quite a few things. I do not trust Meloni on quite a few things. But until she shows me otherwise, so far she hasn't been, to the best of my knowledge, a bad ally to Ukraine. It seems that she has been putting political weight into pushes for Italian support to Ukraine. And that I do appreciate. Meanwhile, the Italian government believes Rome can help bridge the gap between both the US and the EU and considers Europe's defense plans essential. Again, you ask why, and you might ask, well, secular Sekai, why do you not trust Giorgia Meloni? It's because her party is the far-right Brothers of Italy, and I do not trust the Brothers of Italy. I do not trust the Fratelli. Anyway, the far-right Brothers of Italy party MP Gian Giacomo Calovini is convinced that Rome can serve as a mediator between the two sides. We certainly cannot afford divisions within the Western Bloc, Calovini told Euronews. Rome can help connect Washington and Brussels. Group members hope the boycott... Oh, that would explain why I was confused. It's because it's taking multiple articles and combining them into one. Interesting. Okay, so here's more about Italy. However, here's the information about Sweden. Okay, well, I guess we'll learn a bit about both the Swedish boycott and Italy's stances on support for Ukraine. All right, so next, regarding the Sweden boycott of American goods, group members hope the boycott can effectively pressure the U.S. administration and use the platform to share alternative buying options. A series of boycott movements emerged in response to the U.S. recent policy changes, including Washington's decision to halt support to Ukraine and the announcement of tariffs on Europe in what the followers believe will place some pressure on the U.S. administration. In Sweden, several Facebook groups calling for the boycott of U.S. products have gained a significant number of followers quickly. One group, Boycott varer fra USA, USA. I don't know if that's how you pronounce USA, and I don't speak Swedish. So, yeah. Racked up almost 67,000 members, while another, Boykotta Varor Fran USA, has more than 70,000. Anna says, I don't trust Maloney. Same. I do not trust Maloney either. We are in the same boat. The groups are urging members to stop buying major U.S. products, including Tesla, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Nike, and Levi's, and stop using services such as Netflix, Google, and Airbnb. Oh, and to I'm going to stop talking about Georgia Maloney in a moment, but unless she comes up again in the article, of course. But to highlight why I don't trust Georgia Maloney, right now, it seems to be beneficial to her to be in support of Ukraine. But just like with Elon Musk early on in the war, a lot of you, before he showed his true, well, when it came to the topic of Ukraine at least, before Elon Musk really showed his true colors, he's always been a snake when it comes to plenty of other topics. But you'll remember in 2022, early on in the war, Elon Musk was hailed by many as a friend of Ukraine because of Starlink and providing it and speaking out in support of Ukraine. And now Tesla dealerships are burning. If you drive a Tesla, you're getting flipped off. And he's helping to dismantle not only support to Ukraine, but spreading Kremlin propaganda, and has basically been crowned the de facto king of America, since Donald Trump is just his puppet. So, similar to my distrust for Elon Musk, that is personally, I won't speak for, I can't speak for anyone other than myself, but personally, that's how I see Georgia Maloney. Yannick Kohinoor, creator of the Boykotta Varor Fran USA group, said she felt compelled to do something despite being a Swedish citizen. When I can't vote in the U.S. elections or demonstrate on the streets in the United States, I feel that I have something to do, she said. On the page, members share recommendations on alternative options to U.S. goods and services, but for some, making the switch is not as evident as it might seem. It's difficult because everything has an American influence, so it's terribly difficult. Then you should boycott almost everything, a Swedish shopper said. Another shopper said they understood the initiative, but admitted it can be difficult to get people on board because you go and do your usual shopping and you may not always think about where it comes from. Kohinoor said that she had been criticized for creating the movement's group on Facebook, which is owned by American technology conglomerate Meta. We have no better alternative, the group's creator said. This is about getting people together and creating a movement. I think you have to gradually change as alternatives come. Yeah, when you really think about it, I mean, I don't like TikTok because I don't like the Chinese government any more than the current Trump regime in America, or, of course, the Russian government, which we all hate. But there are some alternatives out there, but for truly international social media, I mean, yeah, between Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, I mean, a lot of options. You can find others from different countries, but a lot of them are really more popular among domestic audiences. Like, they're popular Indian social media apps that are mostly used by people from India and a few other countries, but kind of just a random assortment of other countries with ties to India. And then, of course, China has been upping their game recently when it comes to social media, but in my opinion, the governments of Europe should not be trusting the Trump regime any more than they should be trusting Vladimir Putin's regime or Xi Jinping's regime. Just don't trust regimes at all. Don't trust the communist regime and don't trust the fascist regimes. Because that's very much what Vladimir Putin is, and that's very much what Donald Trump wants to turn America into. So, yeah. Again, repeat of a call to action. Americans, stand up for your democracy. Don't allow your country to ever fully become what Russia or China are, which are fascist and communist dictatorships, respectively. All right. And the end of this article has to do with Italy. Here we go. All right, well, we didn't mean to originally go over Italy at all. It just, the way that this page loaded, it kind of combined these articles about Italy and Sweden together. So I'll just close out with this, because I put the article into the chat already. Regarding Giorgia Meloni, Meloni's close ties to Trump. Beyond her commitment to transatlantic unity, Meloni remains one of Europe's few potential Trump whisperers, and she is a close ally. Trump has hailed her as a fantastic woman and a great leader, and Meloni has leveraged this and wants to maintain the connection. In January, she traveled to Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida to coordinate efforts for the release of Italian journalist Cecilia Sala, who was imprisoned in Iran. This diplomatic success boosted her domestic standing. In a recent speech, Meloni sought to quell concerns about Trump's commitment to Europe. Our adversaries hope Trump will move away, but that won't happen. I know him. He is strong and effective. I bet he will prove them wrong. We will prove them wrong. Excuse me. So, yeah. Again, Meloni may be useful when it comes to Ukraine, because she's one of the few European leaders who are still on fairly good terms with Trump. But the fact that that connection exists, and she is on fairly good terms with Trump, of course, you know, in my eyes, does not make her trustworthy in the first place. But, yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next article. Alright, but first, let's see what people are saying in chat. KNK's GG is here. Oh, watching from her television. Oh, that's awesome. And I don't see any questions as of yet. Let's see. Yep, no questions yet. Okay, perfect. Let's keep going then. Now, on the topic of boycotts, regarding, as I'm sure you're all aware, there are now officially, although, you know, apparently there are quote-unquote exceptions or exemptions being made, the Trump regime is declaring 25% tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico. This continues to follow a pattern which basically goes like this. Donald Trump makes a stupid decision. Then said stupid decision has massive consequences. Donald Trump declares that, you know, everything is better and, you know, no, there's no problem whatsoever, and his supporters believe him. Or he publicly makes a statement saying, trying to appear strong, saying, I'm going to be merciful and, you know, make an exception in this one case, you know? And then his supporters believe him. And celebrate him. And then the next step is he quietly reverses said stupid decision because it was so ineffective and harmful. And then the cycle continues and round in a circle, basically with all four of those steps over and over again. And the latest result of that is, from USA Today, let me get this link for you into the chat. KNK's GG says she just shared that graphic this morning to her Facebook page. Yep. Alright. Canadian backlash erupts over Trump's tariffs. Trade war hits wine and spirits. What's next? Excuse me. Though the tariffs on goods imported to the U.S. from Canada and Mexico have received a temporary reprieve from President Donald Trump, negative consumer sentiment from Canadians about U.S. products has many American companies on edge, as it should. Let me tell you this, guys. With only a few exceptions, I'm also doing what I can to engage in supporting this boycott movement. I mean, it's very important. Because if you can't vote in American elections, you know what you can do? If you're a citizen of any country in the world, anywhere in the world, something which I do when I refuse to buy things from China or from Egypt or from Russia, you can vote with your dollars. And I will repeat, if you are not an American citizen, you can still vote with your currency, with your business. If you want to have an effect on the U.S. Political system in terms of U.S. businesses as well, then let them know, hey, America, your president is kind of a buffoon and you're kind of making the least rational decisions and sacrificing your status as a world leader. I'm not going to do business with you. And I'm going to encourage others to do the same. So, American liquor, wine, and spirits brands have been pulled off shelves in many Canadian stores as part of retaliatory measures to Trump's tariffs that are temporarily on hold until April 2nd. Lawson Whiting, CEO of Brown-Forman, the maker of Jack Daniel's, said the removal of his company's whiskey from Canadian store shelves was, quote, worse than a tariff. We are no longer selling liquor from the USA. Ask us about some great local and Canadian alternatives. Liquor Mart, effective Tuesday, February 4th of 2025. And you see, some of these companies have been well ahead of the game. You know, in Canada, they've been doing this since February. Pulling liquor, alcohol products from Canadian shelves hurts businesses. It does go both ways. It's not good for American business. It's also not good for Canadian business. But also, it's an important statement. And there's a reason why it's being done. It's not just symbolic. As the United States becomes more isolationist and less trusting of other countries, it has a domino effect. It has an effect on Canadian society, guys. There is currently an election about to come up in Canada this year. Liberals and conservatives are pitted against one another, and the Liberals were in a bad position, but they've had a rebound, a new surge of support, major support, ever since Donald Trump won the presidency in the United States, because there are a lot of Canadians who see parallels. It's not quite as dramatic yet, but they do see parallels to the Republican MAGA movement in their own country, and it scares the hell out of them. And so there's currently what you might say a fight for the political soul of Canada as we speak. All right, pulling liquor, alcohol products, yes, it's literally taking your sales away completely, and a very disproportionate response to a 25% tariff, Whitting said during an earnings call on Wednesday. Yeah, no, it's not disproportionate. It is very appropriate. Whiting said Canada only represents about 1% of Jack Daniel's sales, so we can withstand it. Still, Whiting said it was disappointing that some Canadian consumers would not be able to get bottles of Jack Daniel's because it's a big brand in Canada and popular, but we will see how this plays out. And the rumors continue to float around Canada every day. The California wine industry is also concerned about Canadian consumer backlash. Canada is the single most important export market for U.S. wines, with retail sales in excess of $1.1 billion annually, Robert P. Cook, president and CEO of the Wine Institute, said in a press release. The tariffs and threat of tariffs come at a particularly hard time as the alcohol industry is facing unprecedented challenges in the marketplace, he said. On Thursday, Trump took executive action to postpone for 1 month until April 2nd new tariffs of 25% that had begun on imports from Canada and Mexico. So, I'm not going to go through this whole thing because I want to get on to Ukraine again, but this is just basically to highlight the fact that If Donald Trump thinks that the United States can treat its allies and treat Ukraine specifically the way that he is and not expect backlash, not expect those countries to move away from the United States, then he's got another thing coming. And if he thinks for even a second that trying to replace those ties with ties to Russia is in any way going to be feasible in the long term, or be supported by the American public, be tolerated by the American public, then, I mean, I know he's an idiot, and I know he's delusional, but he's going to have a rude awakening. At some point, the kettle will boil over. At some point, the American people will stand up and say, this is bullshit, in large numbers. All right. So let's see here. Oh, we'll just close out this article by saying, with many countries staging boycotts and raising tariffs, it is much harder for American manufacturers to diversify away from the effects on their export markets, he said. Eventually, if enough countries do this, if enough people do this around the world, American companies are going to feel the pressure. The American system is not designed for the kind of independent economic autonomy, the kind of more closed off system that they think they can create. China doesn't even have that. Russia, too, because they've pissed so many people off and have wound up having so many sanctions, have had to try to put something together, and it's not been going well at all for them. If Donald Trump thinks that the oligarchs who help to put him in power and others who want to see the United States change but continue to be a nation with a strong economy will be able to bolster him, then he's got another thing coming, because with enough pressure, even some of his strongest business supporters will turn on him. Anyway, on to the next. All right, so back to Ukraine. Oh, and a reminder in the chat, Amazon boycott is happening February 7th through... Oh, that was back in February. It is March currently. All right. All right, now then, back to the topic of what is happening in Ukraine, and part of the reason why so many countries are angry with the United States, in addition to things like tariffs and other snubs to their own countries. Many are highly concerned by this development. From AP News, Russian strikes on Ukraine kill 20 as U.S. cuts intelligence sharing with Kiev. From Kiev, Ukraine. Russia launched heavy aerial attacks on Ukraine for a second night Saturday after the United States stopped sharing satellite images with the Ukrainian government, officials said. At least 20 people have been killed. The U.S. decision to withhold intelligence and military aid came on the heels of a tempestuous White House visit last week by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. President Donald Trump is trying to pressure Ukraine into accepting a peace deal with Russia. Hold on one sec. Alright, sorry, I was just checking my audio. Without U.S. satellite imagery, Ukraine's ability to strike inside Russia and defend itself from bombardment is significantly diminished. This is what happens when someone appeases barbarians, Polish President Donald Tusk wrote on X Saturday, referring to the Trump administration. More bombs, more aggression, more victims. Another tragic night in Ukraine. At least 11 people were killed in multiple strikes on a town in Ukraine's embattled eastern Donetsk region late Friday, and another 6 people were killed in 4 towns close to the front, where Russian troops have been making steady advances, said Regional Governor Vadim Filashkin. 3 others died when a Russian drone hit a civilian workshop in the northeastern Kharkiv region, emergency service officials reported. Filashkin declared a day of mourning Saturday and warned that more victims could still be found in the rubble. Russia fired 2 ballistic missiles into the center of the frontline town of Dobropilya, then launched a strike targeting rescuers who responded, according to Zelensky. 5 children were injured in the attacks. It is a vile and inhumane intimidation tactic to which the Russians often resort, he said. And I said earlier that eventually you start to get numb to it when I was talking about like violence in Mexico as an example. But the reality is you don't actually. The only time you will get numb to it is when you just hear it as a news report. When you live there, when you see it, when you see the effect it has on families, when you see the fear it instills in people, whether it's cartels executing a bus full of students or Russians bombing an entire school full of children, the anger, it's universal. It's unyielding. And I say anger because it has to be anger. And of course there are other feelings. There's sorrow, there's fear, there's uncertainty, there's there's some confusion of how a situation could get as bad as it has become. But anger really is the primary emotion to focus on here, because if you succumb to sorrow, if you succumb to fear, if you succumb to the other emotions that come with that anger, then what you'll find is that you end up either silenced or you end up coerced into inaction. Never let yourself be silenced or coerced into inaction. Maybe you get out and you protest with a sign. Maybe you have information that would be useful to someone in regards to neutralizing an oil depository somewhere. Maybe you are young and in good health and you want to be involved in a fight for freedom. But and be out there fighting, whether it be against cartels or against the Russian military or in any other place in the world where there's a tyrant, a tyrannical government that is oppressing people. However you do it, get involved. That's all I'll say. When you see reports like this and you get sad, don't get sad, get angry. That's my message. Okay, anyway. Just 24 hours before the attacks, Russia hit Ukrainian energy facilities with dozens of missiles and drones, hobbling its ability to deliver heat and light to its citizens and to power weapons factories vital to its defenses. Trump says Putin doing what anybody else would. What the hell is this? When asked Friday by a reporter during an Oval Office exchange if Russian President Vladimir Putin was taking advantage of the U.S. pause on intelligence sharing to attack Ukraine, Trump responded, "I think he's doing what anybody else would." No, he's not. This is the reason I call Donald Trump's administration a regime. This man doesn't care about war crimes. His vice president, J.D. Vance, right now, very recently, I think this week or last week, said in an interview that they weren't talking just yet about an invasion into Mexico, as though it is coming and it's going to happen. Donald Trump himself has been quoted during his first administration in meetings with, during his first term, military advisors he had at the time, wanting to know his options for being able to bomb Mexico. Not special forces, covert like the movie Sicario, trying to go in and not get caught, but eliminate key cartel players. No, just straight up. Which places are there the most cartel members, and just where can I bomb them? Where can we bomb them? Not even worrying about civilians nearby. That's what we do, right? That's what we did in Vietnam and Iraq and Afghanistan. Why not Mexico? Where can we bomb in Mexico? This is why this man is a terrifying embarrassment, danger, and threat not just to the United States, but to the world. Zelensky did not mention the intelligence sharing deal on Saturday, but said he welcomed Trump's proposal Friday to impose large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final peace settlement is reached. Everything that helps Putin finance the war must be broken, the Ukrainian president said. Amen to that. In a post on X, Zelensky said he and other high-ranking Ukrainian officials would travel to Saudi Arabia later this week to discuss proposals aimed at ending the war. Zelensky said he was scheduled to meet with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on Monday, but that only his team would remain in the country to meet with U.S. officials. Ukraine has been seeking peace from the very first second of this war, he wrote. Realistic proposals are on the table. The key is to move quickly and effectively. A barrage of missiles and drones. Ukraine's Air Force reported Saturday that Russian troops launched 3 Iskander missiles and 145 drones over the country overnight. The bombardment contained a mix of attack and decoy drones intended to confuse air defenses. 1 missile and 79 drones were shot down, while 54 more drones were lost without causing damage, the Ukrainian Air Force said. Meanwhile, Russian troops shot down 31 Ukrainian drones overnight, including 26 over the country's Krasnodar region. Russia's Defense Ministry said Saturday. Falling debris from 1 drone sparked a blaze at the Kinev oil refinery in Russia's northern Leningrad region. Local Governor Alexander Drozdenko said in a statement no casualties were reported. Okay, so yeah, 1 drone did spark a blaze at the Kinev oil refinery. Way up north in the Leningrad region. That far north, I hope it's not just Ukrainian drones. I hope that the Finns and the Swedes also have some of their own special forces and intelligence agencies assisting as much as possible. Just because the U.S. isn't sharing intelligence, remember, the U.S. is the entire world away, guys. The European Union may have multiple countries composing it, each with their own policies for who, with whom, and how much intel they share, but they are right next to Russia. So if the European Union has been withholding anything, I deeply hope that they go ahead and move past that trepidation, and that just like the Nordics and the Baltics, all of Europe starts sharing everything they can with Ukraine and cutting off whatever they can with the Donald Trump regime. And again, note that I'm not saying with America specifically, although, yeah, that is understood. I'm saying with the Trump regime because one day America will free itself of this nightmare. And Americans, you need to do it before it gets any worse. But one day America will be back at the table as an ally. Right now, with Trump at the head, with Trump and Vance and Musk at the helm, in my opinion, that means that right now there has to be very limited trust in the United States government. I have trust in the American people to do what's right once all other choices are exhausted, but not in the U.S. government. That is for certain. All right. Next. Let's see. What's the next thing I've got? Okay, so the next article is interesting because it kind of, I consider it to be a duck blind. I consider it to be a fake out on the part of Donald Trump. I think his advisors basically were telling him, oh, no, 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 no. The American public still doesn't like Russia. Okay? No, we haven't had enough time to run propaganda and take full control, as much as we need to. We don't have a full Christian nationalist government, so we can't, convince enough of the people that Russia is actually our friend. And so we do still see Donald Trump doing things like this. Constant flip-flop. Constant flip-flop. Trump threatens to impose large-scale sanctions on Russia until a peace agreement with Ukraine is reached. Now, don't get me wrong. This is good news because pressure against Russia is still important, but Russia is not really going to see this as a serious threat. The whole world can see that Donald Trump can't make up his mind on anything. He's just a puppet who repeats what smarter people say is the right thing to do, what they advise him on. As long as they compliment him, as long as they feed his ego, his megalomania, he'll just, trust that they know better than he does. Sometimes, he's an agent of chaos. Sometimes he'll go off script, and he'll get narcissistic enough that he'll just come up with some random wild thing that he thinks is right, and go with that instead of what his advisors tell him. But yeah. He has enough advisors who at least know that they have to keep up some appearance, some kind of appearance of objectivity, even if we all know better, and that he's actually in the Kremlin's pocket. Anyway, this is from NBC News. Washington. After weeks of distancing the U.S. from Ukraine, President Donald Trump on Friday threatened to impose expanded large-scale sanctions and tariffs on Russia until it reaches a peace agreement with Ukraine. Based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield right now, I am strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. To Russia and Ukraine, get to the table right now before it is too late. Thank you, Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social. And actually, I know, I literally just said he's in the Kremlin's pocket. Just remember, you don't have to be an agent of the Kremlin to be an asset of the Kremlin. At the end of the day, I really do believe that Donald Trump doesn't care ultimately about either Ukraine or Russia. He doesn't care about America either. He only cares about himself. The only reason why he would, why he has I guess you could say a quote-unquote soft spot for Russia is because he's got a history of business dealings and interacting with Russia in ways that benefit him, as an individual and people around him who keep him in a life of luxury and in a life of privilege, of power. Okay? At the end of the day, the reason why you can be an asset but not an agent, because you don't have to literally, some conspiracy theory saying that Donald Trump, directly works for the Russian government. He doesn't have to, directly report to anyone or in his own mind even think of himself as a friend of Russia. To be an asset, you just have to be someone who has been social engineered enough that you are a benefit. You just have to be someone who has been groomed and conditioned to think, oh yeah, if I do X, Y, Z, it's going to really benefit me. And if it benefits, Russia, then that's second consequence. Just happens to whatever, but it benefits me the most. That's what Russia banks on. You can be an asset just by being indirectly influenced. While speaking to reporters in the Oval Office Friday afternoon, however, Trump said the U.S. was doing well with Russia and that he was finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine, again, because he is a Russian asset, not an agent. They don't have the cards, Trump said, of Kiev in terms of getting a final settlement. It may be easier dealing with Russia, which is surprising because they have all the problems and they're bombing the hell out of them right now. Asked if he thinks Russian President Vladimir Putin is taking advantage of the U.S., Trump said he doesn't think so and feels the Russian leader wants to put an end to the war and reach a set. This is really hard to read, but I'm going to power through it. I actually think he's doing what anybody else would do, Trump said in response to the question from NBC News' Peter Alexander. I think he's hitting them harder than he's been hitting them, and I think probably anybody in that position will be doing that right now. Trump said he would talk, quote, at length with Putin about Ukraine, maintaining that Russia would never have invaded had he remained in office, and blaming Biden. Again, it always comes back to him. It always comes back to him, whether it's taking credit for something, getting a benefit from something, or, deflecting blame away from himself onto others. It's always about him in Trump's mind. Trump also addressed his administration's decision to halt military aid and intelligence help to Ukraine and was asking what Ukraine will do if they run out of resources. They won't run out of resources. Not if Europe actually rallies and realizes that Donald Trump is making America an unreliable ally. I have to know what they want to settle. I don't know what that they want to settle. If they don't want to settle, we're out of there because we want them to settle, and I'm doing it to stop deaths, said Trump, who then suggested that Europe needs to ramp up its contributions to Ukraine. I watched over the last week or so what's going on in Europe. This thing could end up in World War III if we don't get it settled. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz added that he and Secretary of State Marco Rubio plan to meet with the Ukrainian delegation next week in Saudi Arabia to get these talks back on track to reach a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. Trump's sanctions threat against Russia comes a week after an intense Oval Office clash with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. That was also very hard to watch. Scuttled hopes for a much-anticipated rare earth minerals deal. The meeting added to growing concerns about U.S. policy toward Russia, that U.S. policy toward Russia was softening, and set off a scramble in Europe about who would fill the void if the U.S. pulled its support of Ukraine. Poland! France! I want to say Germany, but Germany, you're scaring me a lot that you're going to end up like America. So Poland and France. And to be honest, I want to say Romania. Romania, if you get your corruption in check and you start working really, really closely with the Poles and with the French, please do that. Poland. For Central Europe, Poland, France, UK, Ukraine, and hopefully Romania. For Northern Europe, Finns, Swedes, they're both doing a pretty good job. Of course, the Baltics, Norway, Nordics and Baltics stand united. We need to have these regional leaders. We need to see other countries step up. We need to see them spend more on their military. We need to see Europe collaborate and work together as one well-oiled unit. Period. The wake-up call has been ringing for a long time, and Europe has overslept. They're running late, and that's a big problem. So they better get up, and they better get ready. That's all I've got to say. And I know a lot of supporters of Ukraine have said the same. And I really want Europe to be able to stand independent from the United States. Not because I want the two to be separate from one another. I think that there are great ties between many Americans and many Europeans. I just want to see a Europe that is not beholden to the U.S. military for its defense. And that may mean making sacrifices on certain policies, certain things that have been beneficial in Europe for a long time because money didn't have to be spent on the military. It's going to be a hard decision. It's going to be something every country has to decide on their own, but I truly hope that they find that balance and make the right decisions to protect themselves and each other, and of course, to help Ukraine. All right, let's see. All right, we'll finish out this article, and then we're going to take a step back from the news because we're already more than an hour in. As a reminder, The QA box is open, so please feel free to ask any questions you might have, whether it's about what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in America, uh, what's happening in terms of sabotage inside of Russia, uh, anywhere else in the world where there's a war or a dictatorship to be opposed. Yeah, any questions you've got. Anyway, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Thursday seemed to preview additional sanctions on Russia in remarks before the Economic Club of New York. He said that the Trump administration has kept enhanced sanctions on Russia in place and is prepared to go all in if it would provide leverage in peace negotiations. Per President Trump's guidance, sanctions will be used explicitly and aggressively for immediate maximum impact, Bessent said. Bessent also accused the Biden administration of imposing weak sanctions on Russia's energy sector, which he said played a major factor in the Russian war machine's continued financing. Bessent charged that Biden took a softer approach to sanctions due to worries about upward pressure on U.S. energy prices during an election season. Yeah, let's be honest here, folks. Democrats talked a good game, but they didn't walk the walk. And the reason for that was fear of losing the election, which is a valid fear. They were trying to avoid what the United States is in right now, what the world, what we're all in right now, which is a United States which has turned to a hyper-conservative movement that may eventually transform it into a one-party state or a de facto one-party state like Hungary, or even, I would argue, even a place like South Africa, because the ANC always wins in South Africa, and the Fidesz party always wins in Hungary. I mean, when you think about it, technically even places that are internationally recognized one-party states like China and Russia, like Russia has more than one political party, but they're very strict and they're very oppressive politically. It is a one-party state. China, is officially a one-party state. They only recognize one party as their government within their constitution, even basically their equivalent of a constitution. Um, but they still kind of, just for international PR, for public relations, they still allow other token parties that exist literally just for show. Um, so and are heavily controlled and monitored. So I mean, even countries that we call one-party states aren't. But I'm getting off topic. My point being that yeah. I got so into it. I got so upset I lost my point. Let me just finish this article so we can move on. I lost my train of thought there for a sec. My apologies. But oh yeah, no, now I recall. Basically, with Democrats, they were afraid of it because the U.S. is heading in that direction now, but their fear is what cost them the election. A lot of things cost them the election, but really fear and trying to play, quote unquote, play the game the right way without realizing that the game was changing. Being inflexible, ultimately, failing to adapt is what truly, um, truly shot the Democrats in the foot. All right. Bessent also claimed that the Biden administration lifted U.S. sanctions on Russia in January, but it's unclear that he was referring to what he was referring to. 10 days before Trump's inauguration, the Treasury Department implemented sweeping sanctions on Russia's energy sector, and there's no evidence that the U.S. eased sanctions. The Treasury Department didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. In a post on Telegram Friday, Zelensky called for a truce in the air and sea after Russia launched a massive attack on Ukraine overnight against the country's energy infrastructure. In total, the Russians launched nearly 70 missiles, both cruise and ballistic, as well as almost 200 attack drones, Zelensky said. All of this was directed at infrastructure that ensures normal life. Repair and restoration work is already underway wherever needed. Unfortunately, there is also damage to residential buildings. Ukraine is ready to take the path to peace, and Ukraine has wanted peace from the very first second of this war. The goal is to force Russia to stop the war, he said. Zelensky said that Ukraine was able to defend its airspace using F-16 aircraft and Mirage 2000 jets provided by France. Thank you, France. And also, before the takeover of the Trump regime, thank you to the Biden administration despite making many mistakes for at least moving that forward to get the clearance for F-16s to get to Ukraine. Not going to forget that. Just because things are bad now doesn't mean I'm going to forget the good things that happened yesterday. On Wednesday, French President Emmanuel Macron reassured Ukraine that Europe will continue to defend it against Russian aggression, even if the U.S. chooses not to continue its assistance. Thank you, President Macron. All right. So that's a lot of stuff. A lot of news we just went over. Oh, J.M. Jones says, brother, they aren't hyper-conservative. They aren't conservatives at all. How is it that the Republican Party is attempting to dismantle the Republic? I mean, they're not trying to dismantle the Republic. They're trying to transform it into a new Republic, which is anti-democratic. Because by definition, the word republic really means a representative democracy where you have representatives who reflect the will of the people. So a republic is always both a republic and a democracy, if it's a proper republic. Otherwise, it's a dictatorship or an autocracy. Okay, neither conservative nor Republican. They may, I will say this. I don't want to bring partisan politics into it, because there are Republicans that I do still respect. But there are also Democrats who I don't respect. There are Republicans I don't respect. And what I'll say is this. There are people like Lisa Murkowski. She's Republican. She's not MAGA. She's a good person. I disagree with her on different policies, but I like her. She's a good person. There's also, what's his name? Oh, man. Is it Massachusetts or There's that one governor who is socially liberal but fiscally conservative, and he's a Republican. He's not MAGA. He's a good guy, and I think he's the governor of Massachusetts. It's been a minute. I'd have to look him up. My point being, there are plenty of good Republicans out there, and there are plenty of Republicans who support Ukraine. I don't have a problem with Republicans. I have a problem with MAGA. And the problem is this. Other Republicans allowed MAGA into the movement, and when you turn on your TV and you see all these MAGA assholes, we can say they're not Republican. We don't claim them as Republican. They aren't real Republicans. When you turn on your TV and you see Congress deliberating, when you see the party of the President of the United States, it still has an R next to it. That's the problem. Democrats have allowed people into their party because it's big tent who cost them basically through improper strategy, the ability to be properly competitive in that election. And over the last 10, 15 years at least, the Republican Party has allowed infiltration from the MAGA. I want to see the GOP be able to say, again, that it truly is the GOP. I want to see the GOP be able to reclaim its dignity. But that day will only come when MAGA is fully purged from the party. And I don't see that day anytime soon. So basically, if you ask me, I'm always going to have some critical thing to say about both parties. Always. It's the nature of it. They're both big tent. There's always going to be things that I dislike about both parties in the US. But, yeah. MAGA are the problem, and MAGA are who we need to focus on. So thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. I don't want it to sound like I'm saying... When I say hyper-conservative, I'm talking about MAGA. MAGA describe themselves as conservatives, even if we don't like them using that term. So fascist. We'll just say the fascists. The MAGA are the fascists. Country first, first values. Country first, first values. Country first, first value. I'm assuming that means values first and country first over party. Which I definitely do agree with that. Anyway, Yeah. Anyone who's here, let me just make one final statement on this and then we're going to move on. I don't care if you identify, if you're an American, I don't care if you identify as a Republican, as a Democrat, as an independent, Green Party, Libertarian, Liberal, Conservative, Progressive, whatever label you want to put on yourself, that's fine. If you support Ukraine and you're against tyranny, you're against what the MAGA stand for, because MAGA do not represent democracy and they do not represent the best interests of Ukraine, then you're welcome here. All right. All right, now then. Let's see here. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to put the donation bars back up because they've been off this whole time. And we're going to take a look at what's at the map because we haven't done that in a minute. Oh wow, that is. Wait, was that the right one? Hold on. Oh shoot. Did the size? Oh, I think this somehow accidentally got resized. Yeah. Yeah, that's way bigger than it should be. Don't know why that got sized as large as it did. All right. All right, so anyway, there we go. So as you can see, we've got, oh, hold on, let me double check. Yeah, so as you can see, we've got both of the bars up again. There was a withdrawal recently for the drones that have been going to Anton. And let's see, hold on one sec. Let me go ahead and open up the page for the drone 110 FPV drones for the 110th Mechanized Brigade. Let's see. Currently, it's at 30. So 30 of 110 drones have been fundraised. So we still have 80 more to go, which, yeah, it is a lot. Because, we're a small channel. But we're getting there. And we've provided 30 drones that otherwise wouldn't have been provided. So that's still ongoing. And again, oh man, it's in the chat, but for some weird reason, the lower thirds option that I have, file, edit, man. I've got time today. I'm going to have to get this fixed so it actually properly displays the so it properly displays those pop-ups that we had before for making donations via PayPal and whatnot. We're basically, it's in the chat. If you want to make a donation over PayPal, feel free to do so directly to Anton. Otherwise, you could try Monobank, or if you want to, you can make a donation. If there's no other way that works for you, if PayPal and Monobank both don't work, you can also do it over donation with super chats or anything else on YouTube, and I'll make sure that gets over. Make sure that gets to where it needs to go. Actually, oh, hold on a sec. Actually, ooh, are super chats on? I think they are, but I might be wrong. Let's see, let's see. Oh, I don't see them. Shoot. Okay, I'll get that fixed. Okay, so they aren't on. Okay, well, for the next stream, I'll make sure that super chats are back on so people can give that way if they can't with Monobank or PayPal. It's just been hard with a lot of traveling and all the stuff I've been doing, which is part of the reason why I'm still looking for a co-host. So anyone who wants to do that and has the time, let me know. And we'll get that set up. All right. Now then. Oh, and Anton is here. Hey, Anton! It's always good to see you, my friend. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, and I think they've been off at least for this stream and the last stream, so I need to get that fixed. I think I got an email about needing to change something to reactivate them. And thank you for all that you do, Anton. Stay safe out there. I know it's pretty rough. It's pretty scary right now with everything that's going on. But I know it's been rough for a while in Ukraine as a whole. So you'll always have support here, my friend. All right, now then. All right, with that being said, okay, we also still have our, so we're at $86.20 of 500 for the radios for the Taiwan Civil Defense, so that's Gingbun's group. For anyone who recalls, Gingbun has been on the channel twice, two or three times, and we have an active fundraiser of $500 to assist his group in case of an emergency, specifically in case of a Chinese invasion of the nation, the sovereign nation of Taiwan, and our ongoing FPV drone fundraiser. So, I'm going to make my donations right now, and I feel really bad because I've been so busy. I haven't. Yeah, we didn't even have a a stream last weekend because I had to run around so many different places. So I'm gonna send 200 right now to Anton for our FPV drones fundraiser. So one sec while I do that. Also while I plug in my phone so it doesn't die on me. The charger's all the way on the other side of the room. Okay, there it is. And I gotta get those dollars in while the US dollar still is a strong currency before this idiot in Washington, D.C. crashes the entire American economy. What a fun what a fun prospect. Okay. There we go. Okay, so that's done. And then I'm going to do $50 toward the radios for Taiwan. And also, I just realized, in addition to having to fix those pop-ups on here and fix the super chats on YouTube, I also need to add the link for the Taiwan fundraiser to Nightbot, which I'll do right after the stream. So for right now, let me just go ahead and pull. I'll just put it in chat. I'll pin it in chat for anyone who wants to make a donation for the Taiwan radios. And that'll be via. We're doing it via Stream Elements. So Stream Element tips are how we're doing that. The tips will go. They should go straight to this this progress bar that we've got here. Pin. Okay, so there we go. And now, how do I want to do this? I think I can just use my debit card. Can I? Maybe not. If not, then let's see here. Okay. Okay, one sec. I need to get into PayPal so I can make this donation. Oh, no. There's the debit card option. Oh, wonderful. I love it. So it does work. If you use Stream Elements, it'll let you donate with either a debit credit card or with PayPal, which is wonderful. Very helpful. One sec. Okay, and I'm back. Alright, let's make this work. What? Okay. Stepped away for 1 second and the whole screen changed. Are you serious? Okay. Sorry, I'm getting this payment figured out. 1 sec, everybody, and then we'll continue. Okay. Jeez. There we go. I need to simplify that process because it basically is the same thing. Stream Elements relies on PayPal, or at least the way I've got it set up. So, sorry. Instead of nicely just connecting automatically to my account, I had to enter in all my info. Anyway, so sent that to Anton. Hopefully he sees that and gets it transferred to the jar soon. And $50. So now we're at $136.20 toward the 500 for radios to Taiwan. All right. Now we can get back to our stream. 100. Yeah. All right. I know. Sorry. I need to set up a music button so that when I have to go somewhere for a second, I can have music playing for all of you, which really shouldn't be hard. Anyway. All right. Before we close out the stream, because we're getting close to 2 hours, we're gonna take a look now at the situation on the ground via the deep state map. So one sec while I get that pulled up for all of us. All right, and let's see. There we go. All right. Up. And we'll take down the donation bar for now. I just realized, that should be way... Okay, I'll have to look at the settings for that because it says the amount, which is good, but it doesn't have an actual like color filling in the bar, which is weird. Alright, well, I'll take a look at that with all the other stuff for the next stream. There we go. Alright, now then. Let's take a look at the situation on the ground. First, we're going to start with, as you've all probably heard, unfortunately, there was a breakthrough in Kursk. So it had been slowly shrinking little by little, the amount of Kursk that was held by the Ukrainian armed forces. But then, let's see. Oh, come on. Yeah, as you can see, very recently, we'll go back a bit. Here's how it was back in late February. And then March 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 2nd, 3rd. Oh, no, that was the 3rd. 4th, 5th, and then on the 6th, so 2 days ago, there was a big breakthrough over here. So what's likely going to happen is, but then there was also a little bit more that was taken over here in the northwest. What's likely going to happen is this small portion that's held by Ukrainian forces will probably end up completely surrounded, and eventually the Russians may end up taking that. They also are occupying this small, tiny portion right here of Ukrainian land. So like a tiny buffer, just like what they set up over here as a tiny buffer. But most likely this part on the south will probably end up eventually being, Ukrainian forces will probably be forced to strategically fall back. They're holding out as pretty well. They're holding out over here in this main portion, this northern portion of Kursk that is still held by the Ukrainian armed forces. I want to remind everybody that Kursk was always more of a bargaining chip. It was always more of a tactic to force the Russians to throw forces at a particular area on the map. Over here, as we can see, the situation is still precarious, still doesn't look very good, but it isn't to the point yet where Kupiansk is directly under threat. But the Russians are moving westward more, little by little. They crossed this river. They slowly managed to get a foothold, and they're working their way south, trying to work their way south. But as you can see, they're also moving north. They were pushed back, so they lost that right there. So the situation in Kupiansk is still stable, but it is still rather precarious. And the Russians are also trying to create a cauldron. They're trying to surround Kupiansk from the north and the south and slowly get to where they can work their way to the city. Also, I want to remind everyone that despite a breakthrough in Kursk, that could also be reversed if the Ukrainian armed forces determine that that would be strategically, tactically helpful. They may be able to push the Russians back and take that I guess you would say what would be the phrase for it? That strip of land that the Russians took back, the Ukrainians may be able to push forward and take it back. It's just, unlike Ukrainian land, that may be less of a priority for them. Only time will tell. But yeah, so Kupiansk is stable, but it is slowly getting a bit more concerning, so keep an eye on that. Over here, we'll go back to the east momentarily, because of course that's where the most activity is occurring. But still, over here in Kherson, there have been lots of missiles. There's been lots of terrorizing of the people in Kherson, but the gray area is still the same as it has been for a long while. Here, no man's land across the Dnieper River. But yeah, neither side have really managed to take territory from the other right there. The river continues to act as a natural barrier. Pretty large one, pretty strong one at that. Down here, let's see. Here recently, things have, for the most part, been pretty stable or more or less the same. Down here near Vasilivka and Molokhansk. A little bit of movement of the Russians, but not too much. They're still trying to push further westward, but as you can see right there, they were pushed back a bit over here near Pokrovsk. So the lines have been held over here. Let's see over here near Lysychansk and Liman. Again, a bit of movement, but nothing substantial. And The last I've checked, the um, the death rate on the Russian side is still reported anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500 per day, depending on the day, but usually around I think 1,100 or 1,200 on average. So, um, yeah, pretty soon I think before this month is over, I'm pretty sure that the Russian casualty casualty statistics will reach over 900,000. And as the war continues onward, the official uh, the official count on those statistics may well reach over 1 million. Again, I've said it before. If and when it reaches 1 million, that would be after about a little more than 3 years of pretty intense fighting from both sides. It would take, I think, at least 2 million casualties on the Russian side as far as full losses on the battlefield before that really might have a major, like truly irreversible damage on the Russian military, on morale, on men who were lost who otherwise could have been in the workforce. But that's a minimum, and it easily could be more than 2 million. So whenever we hit the 1 million mark as far as Russian casualties go, that is still a major milestone in terms of trying pushing back the invaders, neutralizing invaders of Ukraine. But the war would need to, at the current rate, the war would need to continue on for another 3.5 years to even reach that 2 million milestone. So, and the reason I say 2 million is a minimum, it doesn't have anything to do with the number of people. That's an arbitrary number. It has more to do with the amount of equipment, with the amount of cost in replacing not just troops but tanks and other equipment that the Russian armed forces would need to put in. You hit 2 million losses, and with the numbers they already have at like 60, 70 something percent of a lot of their crucial military equipment having been destroyed or captured in this war from the Russian side. And yeah, it would be pretty bad at that point. I don't think they'd be able to continue. They won't. The Russians could not continue this war for another 3.5 years. But again, that would be 3.5 more years of all of this on Ukraine's side as well, and that's also difficult. That's not good at all for Ukraine. So something has to be done. Again, Europe, step up. Be a beacon of hope. Be a beacon of freedom and democracy for Ukraine, because Ukraine has definitely been that beacon for you, and also a beacon of hope for the American people, because the American people really need that inspiration to get back onto the side of good, the right side of history. So I hope that Poland, France, and others will soon rally to Ukraine's aid. But I think that's about it. The situation on the map, we did have, like I said, that breakthrough in Kursk. But other than that, everything else is for the most part pretty stable. It looks like just Russians slowly trying to take more inch by inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter. All right. Now, let me take a look at chat real fast. And let me put this back up. And, oh, hey, there we go. So there's the donation I made, and if anyone else joined me, then your donations would be in there as well for the FPV drones. So there we go. We went from 0 to 10,000, well, almost 0, to 10,221 hryvnia. So thank you to everybody who donated in support. Oh, Dolly. Hey, Dolly's here. I, yeah, perfect. Good to, good to see you. Dolly is a good friend of the channel. Dolly's a good person. All right. Next, let's see. Okay, we're about to hit the 2 hour mark, and I feel like this is a pretty good outcome, though. We got some donations for Taiwan, got some donations for Ukraine. I've got a list of things to fix before the next stream. All right. Let's see if there are any questions. Well, there's one question from Silver Earth. Do you think Turkey could be a heavy player in Ukraine? Also, what do you say to these reps? Oh, you mean when calling representatives? Well, there's a recommended, it kind of depends. When I call, I'll sometimes use the script because it does have some pretty good talking points about the importance of supporting Ukraine, specifically for Americans. But you can use any talking point that you want. A good example of some good talking points would be Russia is not a democracy. They are not a friend of the United States. They're historically a rival of the U.S. And failing to assist Ukraine will only strengthen an American rival, an American enemy. And so it is crucial to stand in support of Ukraine against Russia for that reason, for America's interests. You can mention how I would avoid any partisan political talking points because there's a couple of those related to Ukraine that are especially, part of MAGA propaganda. But that's if you're calling a MAGA representative in the United States. There are also states that have Republican representatives, like Lisa Murkowski, who are very pro-Ukraine. So you can use different talking points. You can talk about, like Lisa Murkowski, if I'm not mistaken, has been supportive of Ukraine. So you can, if you're calling a Republican or Democrat, just any representative whatsoever, or even one of the independents, because are there any independents right now? Places like Vermont will often have independent representatives with no party. But whoever you're calling, if they've been supportive of Ukraine and you know that they have been, thank them for that. If they have been neutral or against Ukraine and have been feeding into MAGA talking points or anti-Ukrainian propaganda, then basically highlight how that is the wrong way to go, that is detrimental to American national security, how it is strengthening America's enemies and weakening the United States, threatening its position as a world leader, and harming American international diplomacy. These are things that they need to hear. But anyway, to go back to the first question about Turkey and whether I think it could be a heavy player, I think it could be. Now, whether it will be or not is another question. Personally, I think the answer is no, only because Turkey likes to, I don't know a better word for this. Turkey likes to flirt with other countries, but never really commit. It likes to flirt with the idea of Western European democracy and open society, but then doesn't really commit to that. It likes to flirt with the idea of secularism, but then it doesn't really commit to that. It has a lot of actions internally that, there are big battles within Turkey about committing to secularism or not. Huge supporters and huge enemies of the idea of a secular Turkey. It likes to flirt with the idea of helping other countries getting involved with their affairs, but always, it'll always, of course, like most countries, focus on anything that more directly affects its own geopolitical machinations and goals. So, like being able to eventually have more influence and overwhelm Greece and the Aegean, even though they're both NATO countries. Being able to have more influence, at the very least, on the southern Caucasus, over places like Armenia and Republic of Georgia, at least the southern portion of Republic of Georgia, without coming into direct conflict with Russia whenever possible, because that would only be could only potentially be harmful toward its desires to create this greater Turanistan, this greater revival of kind of a Turkic international identity, like an alliance with Azerbaijan, a either invasion or forced submission of Armenia to Turkish and Azeri political desires and economic desires. Um, and then also gaining some influence over Turkic peoples in places like Russia and parts of Republic of Georgia and other places. Um, yeah, I don't know. Well, and also Crimea, because there are for those who don't know, Crimean Tatars, or um, Karamli, as they call themselves, they historically have ties to, like, ethnically, to Turkic peoples. So there's a tie there with Turkey, which is, and the Ottoman Empire way back in the day, which is where the practice of Islam in Crimea and parts of Ukraine comes from. So I think Turkey will keep doing what it's been doing. Get involved a little bit, but never fully commit. Because that's what Turkey is. Turkey is a tease. Turkey will flirt with you, but never commit to you. That is my opinion of how much involvement Turkey will have, unless something changes. And that will come down to the savvy statecraft of Ukraine to find a way to entice Turkey to further support them and more strongly to take the risk of more strongly standing against Russia than they already have. Great question. Thank you. All right. And that's the only question I see in the actual QA box. Let me see if there are any questions. Silver Earth says, I'm in Texas, all MAGA. They act like they aren't overthrowing democracy. Yeah, Texas isn't all MAGA, but it's Texas is unique because even among many conservative and Republican supporters of Ukraine in Texas, because there are a lot of people who would call themselves conservative or who are Republican voters in Texas who support Ukraine. There's also a lot of course, there's a lot of Democrats in Texas too, and a lot of people who would call themselves liberal or progressive who support Ukraine from Texas. But among those who are conservative or Republican, you have a lot of people who, interestingly enough, like, you have that problem where people are people have their biases. And just like how I heard in New York an interesting statistic from the election, which was a lot of people there who were conservative voted for both Trump and wait, is it New York? Yeah, I think it is New York, and AOC, Ocasio-Cortez. And Trump and Ocasio-Cortez are complete opposites of one another. And the reasoning was that they just said, I think Trump is for the people, and I think you're for the people as well. You have the same kind of cognitive dissonance, the same weird logic among some people in Texas, where it's like, I see a lot of bad things happening in the country, but I don't blame Donald Trump. Or, I know Donald Trump said all these nasty things about Ukraine, and he was very rude to the president of Ukraine, but I still support Ukraine, but I also support Donald Trump. You get a lot of stuff like that, which, I'll be honest, when I hear people say that too, I'm left scratching my head like, so you say you support Ukraine, but do you really though? Um, like, do you understand that this man is not helping Ukraine? That this man is hurting Ukraine? That the man I'm referring to being Donald Trump, and that he's very close friends with the person who is attacking Ukraine right now. Some of them are smarter and they'll say one thing when they really believe another because they have an actual. They won't say the quiet part out loud, but they have their own actual opinions that might not be popular among Ukraine supporters, but they might be the kind of people who think that I like Ukraine, but I think they need to give up. That kind of crazy bullshit. And some of them really just don't understand. Like they'll donate to Ukrainian soldiers one day and they'll donate to, Donald Trump the next. It just varies a lot. Some of them are just ignorant and some of them are intentionally obtuse with their statements because even though they say they hate politicians, they speak like politicians at heart. Those are the people who piss me off the most. Because ignorance can be fixed. But it's very hard to fix a venomous snake in the grass that's just waiting to bite your ankle. Alright, anyway. Where was I at? Oh, Silver Earth. By the way, since you're in Texas, try to make it to the protest in Dallas, Texas tomorrow. I don't know what part of Texas you're in, but try to make the drive if you can. If it's not more than like 8 hours, because I know from a lot of parts of Texas it could be a really long drive to get to Dallas. But if you are near Dallas, try to make it. That'll be from 1 o'clock until 3 o'clock tomorrow, and the location was earlier on in the video. Hold on, I think I still have it pulled up. Oh, nope, I already closed it. Well, if you look earlier on in the video, you'll find the exact location. But yeah, try to make it if you can. Alright. With that, let's see. I don't see any more questions. Nope, I think we're good. Alright, well then, with that, I guess we'll go ahead and close out. I don't think I see any more donations currently. But again, I'll remind everybody, if you would like to support Ukraine, please feel free to join in with our long-term monobank FPV drone donation campaign. And if you want to support Taiwan to help them be prepared for when the exact same thing happens to Taiwan, because especially if the United States is weakening, there is a strong likelihood that Taiwan will go through the same thing Ukraine is going through right now. Feel free to make a donation to the link for radios for the Taiwan Civil Defense Force of that Gingbun Hong runs, who's been on the channel. And the link for that is in the description of the video. Thanks for being here, everybody. Anyone who's in Dallas, Texas tomorrow, I'll probably see you in person. So if anyone does make it to that, looking forward to meeting you. And yeah, all right. Slava Ukraini. Have a great day. Oh, protest at DC should be getting Oh yeah, you're right. Before I close out. Oh yeah, it's about 8 hours drive. Yeah, but you did two rallies this month. Awesome. Silver Earth is doing her part. Awesome, awesome. And Mick Ashton said the protest at DC should be getting going about now. That is correct. It is. It has been going now for 17 minutes. If you're in Washington D.C., around the corner, then sprint. Maybe you can make it to the protest. All right. Talk to you later, everybody. Slava Ukraini.